Decoding Anatta, the deepest concept in Buddhism. Who am I? I have a body of flesh and blood, but if I lose an arm, is this body still me? If my memory changes, then what am I? If my organs are transplanted into another body, then where is the real me? We often think that there is an unchanging self, but is there really such a thing? Let me reflect on the concept of selflessness, one of the most profound and core ideas of Buddhism. Anatta is one of the most fundamental and profound teachings of Buddhism. It is not just a philosophical concept, but a truth about reality that the Buddha discovered through meditation and profound insight. Anatta refers to the non-existence of a fixed, unchanging, and independent I. According to Buddhism, what we call I or self is actually just a temporary combination of the five aggregates: form, body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, cognition. Understanding selflessness not only frees us from the illusion of a permanent self, but is also the key to freedom from suffering. When we no longer cling to a fixed self, we reduce the worries, fears, and afflictions associated with protecting and nurturing that illusory self. However, anatta is a very elusive and often confusing concept. Many people mistakenly think that anatta means that we do not exist. In fact, the Buddha did not deny the existence of human beings, but pointed out that the I that we usually think of does not have the fixed essence that we think of. In our journey to understanding selflessness, we will face many challenges to our inherent notions of ourselves and the world around us. So I invite you to keep an open mind, be receptive to new perspectives, and be patient as you explore this profound teaching. In the Anatta Sutta, the Buddha taught that the elements of body and mind, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness are not the self. If there were a real self, we could control it as we wish, but in reality, there is not. The story goes that once upon a time, the Buddha preached in the deer park, where he first turned the wheel of Dharma to the 5 brothers Kondana, his first disciples. At that time, they had already attained arahantship, but the Buddha wanted to help them delve deeper into the nature of reality. In this sutta, the Buddha gave a profound analysis of the 5 aggregates, khandhas, the elements that make up what we call a person. He pointed out that none of these 5 aggregates can be considered as the real I. The Buddha began by asking his disciples about each aggregate. Bhikkhus, is form, the physical body, permanent or impermanent? Is feeling sensation permanent or impermanent? Is perception permanent or impermanent? Are actions, thoughts permanent or impermanent? Is consciousness, perception permanent or impermanent? To each question, the disciples replied that they were impermanent. The Buddha went on to point out that what is impermanent cannot be completely controlled and cannot be considered as me or mine. The Buddha emphasized, if there were a real self, we could command it. Be like this, don't be like that. But in reality, we cannot do that. Through this analysis, the Buddha led his disciples to the conclusion that nothing in the 5 aggregates can be considered a fixed, unchanging I. All are non-self, anatta. Deep meaning, this sutra is not just a philosophical lesson, but also a practical guide. When we understand the selfless nature of all phenomena, we can begin to let go of our attachment to the I and find true freedom. This helps to alleviate suffering and opens the path to liberation. The Anatta Sutra has had a profound influence on the entire Buddhist philosophy and understanding of human nature. It challenges the conventional notion of a fixed I and opens up a new perspective on reality. This sutta is not just a sermon, but an invitation to discover our true nature. It encourages us to look closely at what we consider to be me and mine, and thereby find the path to true freedom and happiness. In Buddhism, ego-grasping and ego-cherishing are 2 important concepts related to clinging to the I. Ego-grasping is the false belief that there is a fixed, unchanging I. Ego-cherishing is the excessive love and care for that illusory I. Ego-clinging makes us believe that we are a separate entity, independent of the world around us. We identify ourselves with our body, thoughts, and emotions and think that they are me. However, according to the Buddhist view, there is no independently existing me. All are temporary combinations of elements. Self-cherishing is the natural consequence of ego-clinging. Believing that there is a me that needs to be protected and nurtured, We spend most of our time and energy caring for, protecting, and satisfying that me. We always seek pleasant experiences and avoid undesirable ones for our me. It is because of ego and self-cherishing that humans are always faced with suffering. We worry about the future of the I, fear loss, and suffer when desires are not fulfilled. We try to protect the I from unwanted changes, but in a world that is always changing, this is impossible. However, if we can realize that there is no permanent I, is there any reason to suffer? When we understand the selfless nature of all phenomena, we can begin to let go of our attachment to the I and find true freedom. Practicing selflessness does not mean denying the existence of an individual, but rather realizing that I is only a relative concept, always changing and dependent on many conditions. When we are less attached to I, we will feel freer, less anxious, and more able to live in harmony with the world around us. The concept of selflessness in Buddhism has many similarities with the thoughts of other philosophers and doctrines in the world. Let's explore some typical examples. Heraclitus, the ancient Greek philosopher, is famous for saying, "No man steps twice in the same river." He emphasized that everything is in a state of constant change, reflecting the Buddhist idea of impermanence. Confucius, the great Chinese thinker, had a similar view when he compared life to a constantly flowing stream. This is reminiscent of the concept of impermanence and constant change in Buddhist teachings. David Hume, the 18th century Scottish philosopher, theorized that the self is simply a collection of sensations and impressions without a fixed self. This view is quite close to the Buddhist concept of anatta. In modern physics, Einstein's theory of relativity and quantum mechanics also show that reality is not as fixed as we think. This can be related to the Buddhist view of the non-fixed nature of all things. So, if everything is changing and nothing is fixed, can we find an unchanging self? This question is not only central to Buddhism, but is also a topic of interest to many schools of modern philosophy and science. Impermanence and non-self are two of the three Dharma seals of Buddhism, playing an important role in understanding the nature of reality and human beings. Let's take a deeper look at these two concepts together. Impermanence, anicca, refers to the constant transformation of all phenomena in the universe. From distant stars to the cells in our bodies, all are in a state of constant change. Nothing remains forever in its present form. Anatta is a deeper concept, indicating that there is no fixed, unchanging self or soul that exists independently. Instead, what we call I is just a temporary combination of physical and mental elements, constantly changing over time. These two concepts are closely related. Because everything is impermanent, there cannot be a permanent self. On the contrary, it is precisely because there is no permanent self that everything can change continuously. Ask yourself, is there anything in your life that is forever the same? Are your emotions, your thoughts, even your body always the same? When you look closely, you will realize that all experiences come and go, nothing is permanent. Understanding impermanence and selflessness can help us live a freer and happier life. When we no longer cling to a fixed self, we worry less about the past, fear less about the future, and are able to fully enjoy the present moment. Modern science has come up with many interesting findings that support the Buddhist idea of no self. Neuroscientists have shown that our brains function as complex networks, without a fixed control center. Research on consciousness shows that our sense of self is created by a complex interplay between different neural processes. This is consistent with the Buddhist view of anatta. There is no fixed and unchanging self. In addition, psychological research also shows that our perceptions and decisions are often influenced by unconscious factors, which undermines the notion of a completely autonomous and consistent self. In the field of quantum physics, scientists have discovered that reality at the level of elementary particles does not obey the usual laws of cause and effect. This suggests that the physical world, including our bodies, may not be as real as we think. So perhaps our self is really just a complex illusion, created by the interaction of countless biological, psychological, and environmental factors, right? This is not only consistent with Buddhist teachings, but is also supported by many areas of modern science. Anatta is one of the three seals of Buddhism, along with suffering and impermanence. Everything that is born will die, and because of impermanence, people suffer. But when we understand that there is no unchanging self, we will gradually let go of suffering. The three Dharma seals are the three fundamental characteristics of all phenomena in the universe according to the Buddhist perspective. The three Dharma seals include 1. Impermanence, anicca. All phenomena are always changing, nothing exists forever in a fixed state. This applies to both matter and mind. 2. Suffering, dukkha. Due to impermanence, people often feel dissatisfied, insecure, or miserable. Suffering here is not only physical pain, but also includes dissatisfaction in life. 3. Anatta. There is no fixed, unchanging I or self. Everything is a combination of different factors and is always changing. Understanding these three seals helps us to see reality more correctly. When we understand that everything is impermanent, we will be less attached to temporary things. Realizing the nature of suffering helps us to find ways to overcome it. And finally, understanding selflessness helps us to let go of our attachment to the I, thereby reducing suffering and moving towards liberation. The three seals of Dharma are not only a theory, but also an important practical tool in Buddhism, helping practitioners contemplate the true nature of life and move towards enlightenment. Bookmark for truth. Practice selflessness in life. Selflessness is not just a theory, but a way of life. When we let go of our attachment to the self, we will feel lighter, more altruistic, and live more for others. Take a deep look at yourself and ask, where is my true self? To practice selflessness in daily life, we can apply the following methods. Contemplation. Take time each day to reflect on the impermanent and selfless nature of all phenomena. This can be done through meditation or simply through mindful observation during daily activities. Letting go of attachment. Recognize and slowly let go of your attachment to the notion of self. This can start with not being too attached to your own opinions and views in debates. Develop compassion. When we understand that there is no fixed self, we can more easily empathize and care for others. Practice compassion by helping others without expecting anything in return. Live in the present. Focus on the present moment instead of worrying about the future or regretting the past. This helps reduce ego attachment to the flow of time. Practice gratitude. Realize that everything we have comes from connection and interdependence. Express gratitude for everyone and everything around you. By practicing these, we can gradually reduce our attachment to the self and experience the freedom and peace that the teachings of selflessness bring. Anatta is a profound and challenging concept, but understanding and applying it can bring about tremendous transformation in our lives. It is not just a philosophical theory, but a practical tool for freeing the mind from bondage and affliction. When we begin to realize that the self we cling to is actually an illusion, we will feel lighter and freer. This does not mean that we will lose our personal identity, but on the contrary, we will have the opportunity to experience life more fully and authentically. Remember, the practice of selflessness is a journey, not a destination. Take time each day to reflect on the true nature of all phenomena. Observe your thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. Gradually, you will find yourself reacting less habitually, less attached to unnecessary things. As you begin to let go of your self-biases, you will find yourself able to connect more deeply with others and with the world around you. Compassion and empathy will naturally develop, and you will find joy in helping others without expecting recognition or reward. Remember, every step in this journey is precious. Don't be discouraged if you find it difficult at first. Be patient with yourself and keep practicing. With time and effort, you will find that when you let go of your ego, happiness and peace will come naturally. Thank you for taking the time to learn about this profound concept. Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section below. Every question, every perspective is an opportunity for us to learn and grow together. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to explore more precious teachings of Buddha. See you in the next video, where we will continue this journey of self-discovery and life.